that, Coach.
Champs nameplate.
I'd rather not get into that right now.
Thank y'all for coming out. I gotta go.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with South Carolina Gamecocks, represented today by head coach Dawn Staley and student athletes Raven Johnson and Tina Pow. Coach, if you would, please make an opening statement.
Super excited to play Indiana tomorrow. I know it's going to be a tough matchup. Terry always has her teams ready to rock and roll and competing for 40 minutes. Our team is up for the challenge, so we're excited to play here tomorrow afternoon.
Take questions just for the student athletes at this time. If you would, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Let's start on the right with David.
You mentioned getting to play Sydney again. Just what were some of those the memories of playing with her?
Good and bad memories throughout Oregon, but it was always fun with her and the squad I was with. And it's kind of a full circle moment. You know, we started at Oregon, and now we're gonna, end our career here at, our schools. So I'm just really excited to get it going. I'm excited to see her tomorrow, and it's gonna be a rematch, and it's gonna be really fun.
Go over here to the left, Alan.
For each of you, what sticks out about that game Indiana played last year against you guys in Albany, and how close that got in the fourth quarter? Is there anything you can take from that into this year?
Tina, did you take that first, please?
Well, we keep talking about the halftime dance routine we had with Raven and Camilla, and we was up big during that game, or during the first half. And so we just know that this year we got to be more disciplined. We're up big, and just be able to keep that mindset that we got to stay in all 40 minutes and just continue to be who we are.
Raven?
What she said, keeping the main thing.
Let's go to the middle with Pete, and then to the right.
For both of you, is how different does Indiana look this year compared with last year?
Raven?
I mean, they made it to the next round, so they got to be somewhat type of good. So, I mean, you got to bring our A game and just be us.
Tina?
They obviously had a dominant post last year, as we did as well, and we're two different teams this year. And so, we still have dominant posts as well, but we just got to play our game and be who we are and just continue to be disciplined throughout the 40 minutes that we play.
Second row.
Hey, Andy Mathis, USA Today. Obviously, Coach Staley has built up South Carolina's program immensely the past few years. What's it like playing on a team during such a monumental time in history for South Carolina basketball?
Tina?
It's great. You got to enjoy the process, the good and the bad, the ups and downs, but you still got to be consistent, look to your teammates, and it's a family atmosphere and culture that I love, I trust, and have so much confidence in. So it's been really fun, and I'm just, blessed and fortunate to be able to be part of this program.
Raven?
Pretty much what she says, a winning culture. When you come here, all you think about is all the trophies they have, honestly. So we just want to add on to it, honestly.
Let's go to the middle with Lulu.
Pat, I have a question for you about Raven. Yesterday, on the podcast, Raven said that she likes giving gifts better than receiving. I feel like that translates pretty well to who she is as a point guard. Could you just talk a little bit of what it's like kind of having her on the court in this critical time and how selfless she is setting up teammates for baskets?
Yeah, I know. I love Ray Ball. She's such a wonderful person to be with, wonderful person to play with, but not only is she a great woman on the court, she's also a great woman off the court, and she's very selfless. She's very genuine, and it's all love for her, and she just wants us to be great. And it's great to see when you have a point guard like that, and you want to run through a brick wall for her. And it's just something that we all love and cherish about her, and her fun spirit. And she just does a really good job balancing both things. And she's just a great player, great person, and I just can't wait to see where her journey takes her.
Go over here to Joe.
For either of you, the guards had one of the best games of their season yesterday, and it seems like the chemistry is really high within the unit. How do you guys keep that momentum rolling, within this next game and through the tournament?
Tina, would you take that first?
Yeah, no, it felt really good to see the ball go through the net, especially for us guards. We haven't been shooting the ball particularly well. So just seeing the ball go through yesterday for our first game out through the tournament, it's a great sight to see and a great feel to the game that we're going to have. And we just got to stay locked into practice. That's where everything starts, and we just got to translate what we practice to the game.
Raven?
Yeah, what Tahina said.
Other questions for the student athletes? Go back to the right.
Tahina, this one's for you. I know you just touched on it a little bit. Have you and Sydney Parrish stayed in touch at all, or have you guys talked before the game at all at any? I know you guys were college roommates, so.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a really good relationship. I've always wanted to see her be successful and be great, and it's just really cool to see, like I said, a full circle moment to see each other again and just compete against each other one more time.
Let's go to the back row.
Tina, I noticed you're wearing your hat from last year. Is there any significance to that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I know that you're wearing the hat from last year. Is there any significance to that?
No, I just have a bad hair day. Even though I've been wearing it ever since we started the tournament.
Let's go back to front with Lulu.
Just a clarifying question on something that happened yesterday. Sydney had an and one, and you guys were scouting that game. It looked like, was she yelling to you? That's what Boyer thought, but I wasn't sure who she was making that yell to.
I think she got the N1. You know, when you get N1, you're very competitive, and so you just yell, and then she spotted me, and then we started laughing and giggling. So it was kind of like a friendship moment type of thing.
Any other questions for the student athletes? All right, y'all can go. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We'll open up for questions for Coach Staley. Again, raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you, David, in front with the first one.
Dawn, it's my understanding that Lay likes to wear a fresh pair of sneakers every game. So it's kind of a two-part question. One, what does she do with all the older ones? And two, with Inner Soul and you being kind of a sneakerhead yourself, have you ever talked to her about, hey, you got to clean that out every once in a while?
I think Lay gives a lot of her sneakers away. Lay is such a shifty player that what she does in a pair of sneakers probably loosens them up to a point where she must like that tight feel. I was that tight where I needed a tight feel every time out. I don't have the assortment of sneakers that she gets. So no, I don't know what she does with them, but we like new sneakers. We don't like gently worn sneakers that Inner Soul.
Over here to Alan.
You said yesterday that last year's game was going to be at the top of mind. How much do you emphasize what happened in that fourth quarter and how close Indiana got to knocking you off with the players, or is it just they know what needs to happen differently?
So it's a little bit of both. I think it's we just had a film session just a few minutes ago, and the first thing we discussed was what happened last year. Coach Boyer asked what happened last year, and then they had a mouthful. So that's what we discussed. And I mean, they have the majority of the same team, so they'll if I'm them, I'm looking at what happened last year to see if we made an adjustment and we could connect a little bit better defensively and communicate a little bit better defensively. So we'll be prepared for it. Hopefully they won't knock down as many threes as they did in that fourth quarter to put us in a position where they just fought back and we had the claw to get the win.
Go to the middle, Pete.
Don, obviously you remember what it was like coaching your guys last year when they hadn't really fully accomplished things and were still learning there. Did this game with Indiana last year, was that a little bit of an eye-opener for them? Because it seemed like the rest of the tournament, you guys were a lot crisper and focused after that.
I think in any run, there will be challenges, some good and bad. I think I reflect on it, that was the challenge. And I think Oregon State was a challenge for us as well. The same type of actions caused us a little issues with people playing small ball and running our bigs off of flare screens, something that it's very difficult for any post player to guard. So, I mean, yes, I think it was a challenge, and it's etched in our minds that it's Indiana again. So hopefully we'll have a better outing and finish 40 minutes of a basketball game.
Jordan.
You mentioned last year your necklaces and the meaning behind them, and every day getting to look at them. Is it a similar story with your bracelets? And I'm just wondering, like, where those come from, and I guess also how many do you wear day to day?
A lot. I mean, I just, when young people give me the bracelets, I just immediately put them on. And I think Fagan counted them. I think I'm up to 28. Doesn't look like 28, but it's just, people customize it for me, and I figure I wear them until they break.
Go to Lulu in the front.
Yesterday, I was talking to Raven about basically how hard it is to be a point guard, especially in March Madness, and she was saying that basically her and Mouse have to be a mini you out there on the court. Could you just talk a little bit about that mental perspective of a point guard and what really goes into everything Raven has to do in March?
Yeah, when you really think about it, if anything goes wrong on the floors, I blame the point guards. Anything, if there's any kind of disconnect, miscommunication, and they could not have been involved in their interaction, but they're the people that have to really communicate. You communicate in huddles, you communicate in live play in real time, you communicate on both sides of the basketball. You're the connector. You're the link. You're the link to what needs to happen for us to execute. But the work is done prior to March. It's done in the summer through now, and then it should just be par for the course when it comes to the type of situation that we're in, because it's habit forming. It should come to a point where you probably aren't talking as much because you're just so efficient with what people need to do. It could be a facial expression that really get your teammates to understand what they need to do. So I think it's a cool dynamic. Once it gets to March, it shouldn't be as much work. It should be just running as efficiently and as lean as possible.
Let's go in the third row.
Going back to the bracelets and the necklaces, is there any story that you can share that stands out to you with those?
I mean, the biggest story is, two of the necklaces that I wear are from one person, a young lady. Her name is Blakely, who is going through cancer treatments, and I mean, she gives me a perspective of, yes, we're preparing for, a second round game. She's probably preparing for, a second surgery or a 20-second treatment. So it helps give me perspective. The other one is a young man that I met here at the Children's Hospital who suffers from sickle cell. So I had a cousin that passed away from sickle cell. So it gives me perspective on what we're doing, where we are, and really, for us, although we think it's our world, it's our passion, it's what we do, it really is just basketball when you put it in perspective of what other people have to go through, and not just the young people that are stricken with those type of diseases. It breaks down an entire family. Like it changes your family. If you have siblings, every energy is going towards healing that sick sibling, that sick child. So I do have some empathy for what they go through, and if it helps me to stay empathetic, I'm going to wear them.
Other questions for Coach? Seeing none? All right,
Perfect.
Coach, thank you.
What happened in NCAA's head? I do.
I'm going to. Oh, son of a.
All right, at this time, we are joined now by the Indiana Hoosiers, represented by student athletes Sydney Parrish and Caroline Striplin. If you would, please raise your hand, and if you have a question, we'll get a microphone to you. For either players, let's start over here on the left, in the front.
Sydney, I know South Carolina is a different team that they were last year, but what has been the conversation like that you guys have to do tomorrow to, obviously win?
I think there's a few key things. Like you said, they are different from last year, but they still have they pride themselves on offensive rebounding and having second chance opportunities. I think they lead the country also in transition play, and they're really quick down the court. So just trying to get matched up as fast as possible, making sure we box out and limit those second chance possessions.
So the third row on the right. Anna. Back. Third row.
Does it feel like you guys are playing in a mecca of college basketball when you come here?
Cindy, you want to take that first?
Yeah, of course. I think it's a really special place. First of all, it's really hard to win here, as a lot of people know. And just at the height of where women's basketball is right now, where South Carolina women's basketball is right now, it is a very special place. We know it's going to be sold out. We know there's going to be like 15,000 people rooting against us. But I think that's what makes March Madness really special, and we're in a position where anything can happen. I think we have like a 4% chance of winning, and I think South Carolina's lost one game here in like the last 4 years or something crazy. But this is like the moments we grew up wanting, like we grow up watching March Madness, is watching upsets, and we're put in a position where we have the potential to beat a team that also ended our season last year.
Caroline?
Yeah, it's definitely a huge opportunity for us to play here. We've known that since the moment our name was called, but we've also had a lot of games, I feel like, that have prepared us for this moment. The Big Ten, we were on the road at a lot of huge crowds. One that comes to mind is Iowa. Even like Michigan State brought like just the loudest crowd that I felt like of the whole season. So it's going to be a great opportunity to play at their place. The fans are going to bring a lot of energy, and we're going to try to quiet them as much as we can.
Let's go in the front row right here, to the right.
For both of you, you've taken different paths to get here at Indiana. What has your time in an Indiana uniform meant to you, and what do you want fans to remember you by?
Caroline, would you take that first?
Yeah. It's really meant a lot. I am just extremely thankful to be able to have finished my career here. Coach Morin allowing me to step into the starting lineup was just really special, and I'm really grateful to just put on the uniform that so many people have paved the way to, help get back to this March Madness stage. I feel like is really special, and it means everything. I'm really thankful that I've been able to play with players like Sid and everyone on my specific team, but it really means a lot for all the people that have paved the way.
Cindy?
I don't know if I can put into words what it's meant to be able to come and play for Indiana after transferring. It's like I came home to play in front of family, friends, so many amazing people. Like Caro said, the players that paved the way before us, they're the ones that have done, the work to make IU women's basketball be one of the powerhouses that continually comes back to the NCAA tournament, and that's really special to be a part of as well. But it's just so special to be able to represent my home state, play for a coach like Coach Morin, and I think that's a big reason why you want to play so far into the tournament, because I don't want it to be my last time putting on the Indiana jersey.
Go over to the left.
Sydney, I know you said it's a different South Carolina team from last year, but does playing them as close as you did last year, is there anything y'all can take away from that experience headed into this game?
Of course. I think it gives us a little bit of motivation. I think this is when we got the seeding and knowing that our second game would be against South Carolina, it gave us a little bit of hope, knowing that we did play them so closely last year. Obviously, we were down big going into the second half, but it showed our character and how we prepared, and we didn't take our foot off the gas coming into the second half, and we didn't let up. But just watching some of the film from last year as well, we obviously did, because South Carolina does have a lot of the same players, and some of their bench players from last year are now big number players this year. So just looking back at the film is definitely going to help us.
Go ahead, on the right.
Sydney, how does it feel? What type of emotions are you experiencing knowing that you're facing one of your best friends for a second straight year, knowing that at the end of the day, one of you guys is going to end the other's college career?
Well, that's sad to think about, but I didn't really think about it that way. But if we do put it in that way, one of our careers is going to end at the end of the buzzer tomorrow. And just thinking back, like the moment we stepped foot on campus as freshmen, we were 18-year-olds who had no idea what anything about college basketball was. We didn't know what we were doing coming into college during COVID. We had no idea what wildfires were in the Pacific Northwest. Just things that we came into college together, and knowing that it might be one of our last games come tomorrow, it's just a special thing to share with her. She was the first person to text me the moment where our names got called on Selection Sunday. I looked down at my phone, and it's a text from her, and it's special to have somebody on the other side of the court that, obviously we're going to be competitive, but at the end of the day, she's one of my best friends, one of my sisters, and she's family.
Go to the third row.
For both you guys, what does it mean to come to a program that the expectation is the NCAA tournament, 6 straight tournaments, now 7 with this year? What's the expectation, or what's it like to play for a team that is the standard that Coach Morin set?
Sydney?
I think that's a big reason why Caroline and I decided to transfer to Indiana. It is an expectation to make the tournament, and even though maybe the season overall didn't go exactly how we wanted a couple more wins in the record, but at the end of the day, we made it to the NCAA tournament, and that's one of our main goals. And it's not just to make it, but it's to win in the NCAA tournament. And people who play in the tournament know how hard it is to win, and just to get that one win yesterday was a huge success for us, and we have to realize that it's a big success, but we are also trained to win in the NCAA tournament.
Caroline?
Yeah, like Sydney said, I came here with expectations of making it to the tournament, and I'm really thankful that we did. But I think that what makes the tournament special is it's basically a new season. It's 2 teams just facing head-to-head. Whoever's playing the best that night is going to win. So I'm excited to go head-to-head tomorrow.
Let's go in the front row middle.
Caroline, what sort of individual challenge does the South Carolina post defense provide for you as a player?
Mm-hmm. Obviously, they're all really long. They're athletic. They're really experienced players. Like Sydney said, the people that were on the bench last year are now moving into the starting roles, and they're people that I've played against ever since I stepped foot in college and even back to high school and AAU. So I feel like that might pose a strength, but also I'm just got to be prepared. I know that they like to block shots. They are really smart. They know how to play defense well. So just going to come down to me executing what I know that Coach Morin wants me to do.
Stay in the front row, right?
For both of you, again, as seniors who have experience in the NCAA tournament already, how have you been able to help your younger teammates who may not have seen time in the tournament so far?
Caroline?
Yeah, I think that we knew coming in that it was kind of preached that it's really hard to get into the tournament. So I think that everybody had a mindset of gratitude, and we were all just really locked in, focused in practice. And I think that it takes everyone to win a game, and we just really have harped on that. The coaches have harped on that, and I think that it starts from there.
Yeah, same with what Caro said. Like, you have to have confidence when you come into this tournament, or else you will lose. And so just knowing that, we've prepared for this moment. I think especially this game, like almost our entire team has played against South Carolina, and we have the strength of Caroline. She's played them the last 4 years. So that's really special to have as well, especially because one of their strengths is their interior. So just knowing that Caroline has had that experience as well definitely helps.
Go in the front.
For both of you, I asked Terry a similar question yesterday of just kind of the ups and downs you guys had during the season. From your guys' perspective, in what ways did you guys evolve as a team to kind of get you to this point, playing some of your best basketball in the last couple weeks?
Sydney?
Yeah, I don't think that anyone in the media would have had us playing in the NCAA tournament or winning a game in the NCAA tournament right after we lost to Butler in, I think it was like November. So I think that just kind of shows our growth. You know, it took us a little while to get to where we are, but we are playing our best basketball right now, and it just took us a minute to mesh together and figure out how people play. You know, we had Shay and Kira as transfers coming in, and just figuring that out took us a minute. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you play in November; it's how you're playing in March, and we won yesterday in March, and not a lot of people can say that.
Caroline?
Yeah, I think that, like we both touched on, it's really hard to win, period. I think that this year it was really evident with the Big Ten schedule. We were having to, go head-to-head with the best players in the nation every night, and I think that will pose any team a threat that makes you have an up-and-down season. So I think that we all just kind of had to shake off a few games, and it's really great that we're all clicking right now, and I'm excited to see what we do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question on Zoom from Seth Toe. Seth?
Yeah, Sydney, it struck me before, what you said about, how these are moments you grow up watching, moments you grow up wanting, kind of, thinking in that way, but maybe bigger picture for you. Like, growing up, did you ever picture yourself having a career playing at Indiana like the one you've had? Like, what would younger Sydney have said about the player who's put the IU uniform on the last 3 years?
She would just be so proud of where I'm standing today. I think it's a big deal that you're playing in the tournament, but just like you see these press conference interviews when you're younger, pictures of like with the March Madness behind you, sitting with a microphone. It's just like, it's everything a little girl from Indiana would dream of. And when I was younger, no, I wouldn't have said Indiana was even in March Madness. Of course the men, but not the women at all. And I didn't think I would be in an IU uniform. No, I didn't think I'd be playing in March Madness, but you have to dream big when you're younger, and this is just something that I've always dreamed of, and I just never want to take that IU uniform off, so that's going to be a big motivation for me coming tomorrow.
Anything else for the student athletes? Pete, go ahead.
Hey there, if you don't mind, I walked in a little late. I hope you didn't answer this already, but having played South Carolina last year, what do you see? Do you see much difference in them from on tape from what you played in person a year ago?
Sydney?
Yes, they're different. They have their similarities. I think they never go away from their transition offense, their offensive rebounding, but without a 6'7" kid in there with Camilla last year and Ashlyn Watkins, unfortunately, being injured at the beginning of this year, that definitely helps us. Though we're not as tall as they are, I think that we have the strength of maybe trying to play a little bit smarter than them, and knowing when to pick and choose, when to double, when to help off certain people, when to push the ball and try to play fast, and when to try and tempo it down a little bit. But they are different, which helps us, but we also have to know that we only lost them by 2 points last year.
Caroline?
Well, I guess I would say a little bit of the same. I think we lost by 1 point, if you guys remember that game at all. But, yeah, it's definitely, I wouldn't say easier to guard their post players at all this year, but the height advantage definitely gives us a little bit more room to run some of our stuff that we normally do. And I think, like Sydney said, we're just going to have to go in and understand the game plan and execute, and I think that that's going to help us against them.
Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Good
Thank
luck
you.
tomorrow. All right, we're joined now by Indiana head coach Terry Morin. If you would, please raise your hand, and we'll get a microphone to you for questions for Coach Morin. Pete, go ahead on the left.
Hey, Terry.
Morning, or good afternoon.
Right. What, I mean, you probably looked at a bunch of South Carolina film last night. What's different about them than the team you played a year ago?
Well, they don't have that big kid on the inside, Cardoso. So it's probably the biggest difference, right, when you're preparing for a team that has, such a big piece on the inside, and how you're going to guard her and the different coverages that you have to plan for. And so that's the biggest difference. They're still outstanding in their transition offense. I think one of the biggest differences from a year ago is I'm not sure that we've ever seen a bench that scores more than the starting five, and that their two leading scorers come off the bench. That's pretty unique. And so that's what pops out is the difference, in terms of what they bring off the bench and how, they can score the ball in so many different ways. But last year, we spent an awful long time trying to figure out how we were going to guard their five.
Go to the right.
Terry, that's exactly what I was going to ask about, was the bench. Just when a bench is that potent and the two leading scorers come off the bench, does that make you maybe second think or have to consider how you are going to maybe change your rotations for a game like this?
I don't know that our rotation changes. Our coverages, could possibly change in terms of, how we may guard Joyce Edwards might be different than how we would guard Sanaya Fagan, But I don't think anything changes in terms of, rotations. They're all, like I said, there's nothing to change when you're talking about how potent they are in their transition defense. I mean, you got to sprint back. That's whatever five are on the floor. That's where their secret sauce is, in transition, and how much they can hurt you if you don't sprint back. We call it build a wall, but show bodies to all those pieces that want to try to get downhill and try to get to the rim. And so, nothing changes in terms of rotation. Strategy may change, and like I said, maybe how we, guard a ball coverage, or if they throw the ball inside, how we may want to handle that.
Go to the third row, Anna.
Where do you think South Carolina fits in terms of historical basketball programs like Tennessee, UConn, and Stanford?
Well, I mean, you can't talk about the other ones that you mentioned without mentioning South Carolina and what they've been able to accomplish here. And so, right now, historically, in the last 10 years, I mean, they've been one of the best programs in our sport. But I think they've also raised the bar for everybody else. That it's no longer UConn, it's no longer Tennessee. Now you're talking about South Carolina. Now we're talking about some teams in the Big Ten with USC and UCLA. That we're all trying to build traditions, at our respective institutions, and so it's just, again, the parity in our game is at an all-time high. We're all trying to, build programs that we can and be able to sustain the success that we all, enjoyed. It's been impressive, what Dawn and her staff have been able to accomplish here.
Go to the left.
You had two players up here who played South Carolina down to the wire and had heartbreaking losses last year, and a lot of the players on your team experienced that last season.
Right.
Do you sense any bit of extra motivation from them, understanding that this is an opportunity to be able to finish, quote unquote?
Yeah, again, we're motivated because we're in this tournament, but I will say that I think our group, has confidence in the fact that we did play them. We dug ourselves a hole there in the first half, but then fought our way back out of it, and got within 2 points, and then Dawn calls a timeout and, throws the ball inside, and so we go down 4, but it was down to the wire, right? And so, again, disappointing that we couldn't pull it off, but yet, gave us some confidence knowing that although both teams are different, that we have been able to play, with a team like South Carolina, and so I'm hopeful that these guys have the confidence, but the belief that when we do, as I said yesterday, when our assists are high, our turnovers are low, and we're rock solid defensively, I think we can play with anybody.
Front row.
Coach, your seniors have all come through different paths to get to Indiana and to get to this point. What have they meant to you, and what have they meant to this program?
Well, again, I've said this about Sid Parrish. It's great that she found her way back to Indiana, after she left and went out to the West Coast, and then found her way back. An Indiana kid coming back home was really important. I think about Strip, who's just joined us for a year, but how quickly, she came in and just, was seamless, the transition, and what a blessing she's been, having her in our program. And then, Chloe's just been a fifth-year kid for us that has endured the process of going from not playing a whole lot, as a freshman and maybe a sophomore because she was behind some really great guards in our program, but believed in us, believed in our process for her. Those kids don't exist anymore, when they don't, get the immediate satisfaction of playing time. A lot of those kids get into the portal and want to leave, but Chloe was never about that. She knew that Indiana was the best place for her and that we can develop her. And she's become one of the all-time greats, inside of our program, but she's also one of the all-time greats defensively that we've seen in our conference. And so all of them have meant different things, to our team, but they've been a pleasure to coach, and whether they were here 5 years, whether they've been here 3 years, or whether they've been here 1 year, they've made an impact in our program.
Third row.
With Sydney going up against her former teammate, Tahina Papau, what do you see when you see former teammates play each other, especially in high-stakes games?
I don't know that I see anything different. I mean, they're both competitors. I think they're friends off the floor, which typically happens, right, when you've played together at, respective institutions or other universities. I think there's a friendship there. But I think both Sid and Pau would tell you that when the ball goes up, right, the stakes are a little higher, and it's different. It's a different. You set aside that friendship, and it's just the competitiveness that they both, I think, have. I think they are both looking at this as how can I just help my team be successful.
Other questions? Got one here in the front.
Terry, you talked about the post play a little bit, but what do you need to see from Caroline and Lily to sort of potentially give you that edge in, down low in the paint tomorrow?
Yeah, they have to be rock solid. Like I said, this is going to be as much of a mental game as it's going to be a physical game. And for us, it's understanding tendencies, but also rotations, where we can be, where we can help off of. If there's an opportunity there because of spacing purposes, can we help each other? And so, we know they like, they're incredible with their high-low game, but where they really get you is the offensive rebounds, right? So we have to do our job, especially those two, of keeping Fagan and keeping Kitts and Joyce Edwards off the offensive glass. That's where it's going to, the most important job they're going to have is starts there with keeping them, from getting those second, third shot opportunities.
Go to the third row.
You got to coach Joyce Edwards a little bit over the summer. What do you know? What did you learn about her then, and how have you seen her game evolve this year?
Oh, what I respect about Joyce is her how she goes about her work. although we were, in Columbia, the competition was just okay, but, she approached every game like, we were playing for a championship, or a gold medal. Every game for her was a gold medal game. And that's the one thing that stood out to me, when you're dealing with some of the, not dealing with, but when you have the opportunity to coach some of those elite, top kids in the country, just their mindset, how they go about the film, how they go about their work. She was always first on the floor, always last one to leave. But I know she's very, very intelligent, very smart kid. But the seriousness that she went into every game, with was impressive. And so not surprised by, how well she's come in here and been special.
Go to the right.
Hey, Coach. Dylan Clearfield, USA Today Sports. With so many players coming through this program being lifers, like Chloe being a fifth year, like Allie being a lifer, and now coming back on the coaching staff, how do you maintain this promise and these connections that you build throughout recruiting them and continue along with them throughout the rest of their lives?
Yeah, well, don't forget I have Kiana Worthen, who's also a player for me, and then Mackenzie Holmes, also a player. I have a lot of those kids that, I don't know about Mac. I think Mac thinks she wants to coach. I think sometimes when she's around, I don't know, she's thinking about that life choice because of how many hours we're in the office. But, again, I think it goes back to and culture is such a buzzword, but it really is about, the atmosphere, the culture that we've tried to create in Indiana, with it's so much bigger than just coaching. It's trying to prepare them for life, after Indiana. But we have been fortunate enough that, we have players that have, former players, that have wanted to get into this great game. And what's special about having those guys as part of our staff now is they understand that they were part of the foundation, right? The part of the build. And how hard it is to win, how hard it is to win. And I think they're great reminders to our players now, the young guys that come in about what that looks like, the work piece, and how, we call it a lifestyle of being in Indiana is that you're going to be in the gym outside of those practice hours. But you're also going to be about each other. Right? This is a program that has been built on players that have to kind of set aside, and we all do this, set aside our ego and understand that the only way that we're going to have success is by being about one another and kind of falling in love with the success that we all have as individuals. And, it's great to have them back, but what I've found is there's a lot of, one of the things about being able to have this job and sit in this seat is that you hope that when your players leave, they walk away with a ton of stories and great experiences, which they've all had. I'm just finding out about some of those stories, though, now when they're up in that office space, the things that really did happen on some of those road trips, right? And so, but it's all great stories of, Key was just reminding me the other day when I kicked her out of practice. I don't even remember that, but she remembers that, right? We got a good laugh out of it. But she'll tell you, I got kicked out probably because I wasn't, living up to the standard of what it's about to be at Indiana, and that's the work, that's the focus, day in and day out. But the stories are what I like. When I sit in there and we laugh about things that have happened, and they can still go back and talk about them, right? Now feel comfortable enough to share them with me. That's what I love. And so that's probably been my favorite part about having them back. But also there's a seriousness about, and I think there's a responsibility when you build something, you want to see it, be sustained. And so I think that there's a responsibility that they feel like, and there's accountability, like, hey, we're not going to let this thing, go away. We built it. Now the responsibility is on those young kids, but this is how we built it. And now we expect you guys to come in here and do the same stuff that we did day in and day out to help us sustain such a great program.
Let's go to the right.
Terry, I asked a few players in the locker room. I just want to get your thoughts on it. Are you a fan of the black jerseys, and do you like them more than the regular Crimson Road ones you guys wear?
There's some things that you just, it's just like their music selection, right? I'm old. So I don't care about, what they like to listen to. I want to listen to, hard 80s and, some different types of genres of music. And so they want to listen to rap, that's cool. They love the black jerseys. If they want to play in black jerseys, we'll play in black jerseys. I think they look sharp. I laugh at sometimes our fan base that they get so, this is their tradition of Indiana, right? And they like their red, they like, their white. But, I think, times have changed. We have to change with the times. And so, our kids love playing in the black jerseys. And if they feel good in the black jerseys, then we're going to play in the black jerseys. And so those are things that I kind of leave. Not every decision up to them, but there's things that I will leave some decisions up to them. And if they want to play in black jerseys, then we'll play in black jerseys. I think they look sharp, though.
Excuse me. Last question goes to Seth Toe. Seth?
Yeah, Terry, it's funny that you were talking so much about your staff and the coaches down the bench with you. I was going to ask about that, too. I know it's been a challenging season with all the ups and downs you guys have had this year, and we've asked a lot about, how the players kind of battled all that. But how do you feel like your staff has handled all those challenges this year, with some of those young pieces that are in their first or second year of coaching? Just how do you feel like your staff has handled all the challenges this year?
I think they've done a terrific job, I mean, here's what we know. Success is not a straight line, as much as we like it to be. It's not. That's not real life. And so there have been some really, hard moments of trying to figure out, but it's also made us better. We've had to go back and try to figure out how to be better coaches. We've had to be better at our preparation and take a step back to how our kids learn in the best way that they learn. And so I think that, with any adversity, look, there's always lessons to be learned in all of that. There's hard lessons that you learn from losses. I don't look at it as a loss. I look at it as an opportunity to grow and get better. And I think our staff does that too. It's like, there's no pointing fingers. There's no blame in all this. It's like, how can we get better and how can we be better, for our players? And I will say this, our players have grown throughout the season, and I think our staff, our young staff, has grown throughout the season. I've grown throughout the season as well, and that's what you want, right? If they want a long career in this coaching business, then they got to learn that you don't win them all, right? And so you got to figure out how to balance the two. That there's going to be some tough stretches where you got to go back and you got to figure out, look at yourself first, and self-evaluate and make sure that you're doing what you need to do in order to give your team the best opportunity to be successful.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Thank you, guys.